Hey guys, so here is a video test of the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Get an idea what it looks like. I will punch in 2x zoom, and then I'll go ahead and punch in the 5x. And you can see you can zoom in much further now than you ever were able to before. So what is up, guys? Welcome to my honest review 1 week later of the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Now, I know I've been taking a little while to give you my updated thoughts on this. I wanted to do some comparisons as you've been seeing on the channel first, and really give this a few days before I just rush out and react and start giving you, oh, it's overheating and stuff like that. Now, for me, let's just get that thing out of the elephant out of the room right away. Has it got hot? The answer is yes. It did get hot in the first few days. Has it cooled down? The answer is yes. This phone doesn't get as hot as it was getting in the first few days during the initial setup process. Can you feel it a little bit more than stainless steel? I would say maybe slightly, a little bit over here. This is kind of the area I find that the iPhone gets really warm in this area. I definitely feel it, and certain apps are still not optimized, which can make this phone get toasty. So yeah, definitely can get warm, but I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's dangerous or it overheats. I know that's kind of like what it seems like some of these mainstream media sources are looking for. They just look for the thing that can make you click and watch and just get overwhelmed, and so you get sucked into the drama. But the fact of the matter is I've had this phone a week. It's been fine. It does not, burn my hand or anything like that. Does it get uncomfortably warm? Sometimes, but I've been using it with a case too, so it's not a big issue. And Apple has already said they're going to, fix that. They're going to do an update and they're going to fix that. So it's going to be all good. Don't worry too much about that. Okay, so the model I went with is the 1199 256 gig. It's like the base model 15 Pro Max. I like 256 gigs. It works for me. And that's the model I went with. So I didn't go with 512 or 1 terabyte. The price of this phone was well over $1,300 with taxes. So this is no cheap boy right here. Now, let me tell you if it's been felt like the price has been felt worth it for me. Like, do I feel like this was worth the price so far? And I'm going to say yes and no if you had like a phone from last year. But for me, it's definitely worth it because of a few factors. I've been waiting for Apple to put longer zoom on a phone for a long time, and finally I have zoom that is pretty comparable to what I experience on like a Samsung phone, which I really like. And by the way, shout outs to Samsung for coming through on these iPhone displays. If you didn't know, they actually produce the displays for these phones, and it's one of the reasons why the launch was pretty smooth and a lot of people were able to get this phone and it wasn't delayed because Samsung came clutch and they were able to produce the displays at the same time. These reduced bezels, it's going to be a fire display because Samsung made this display. So absolutely loving this display so far. But yeah, I think it's definitely been worth the price because of USB-C, this ability to zoom, into 5 times. And I noticed something about the zoom so far. Apple didn't go no 10 times. They didn't go, they could have been a little further, but they didn't. But the zoom levels that they do give you, they're pretty good. They're not super noisy or anything. I will say when you get into 25 times, that's a noisy mess at 25 times zoom. But that's because we're inside looking at a box. If we go outside into, nature, we go out into outside, you'll see that the quality is better with really good lighting, even in the digital zoom. But the 5 times optical has been great. So yeah, for the camera alone and the USB-C, those have been great. But I really feel like this has been worth it for me because I really get OCD about these side edges getting too shiny. So I do like that the 15 Pro Max titanium stays a lot cleaner. Now I haven't tried out the black model, the space black model. Well, is it space black? That was last year. The black iPhone model this year, the black titanium. So I don't know. Now there's this thing where like the titanium can get a little fingerprints, so it's still not perfect, but get the silver model, it's probably a little bit less. I don't have to wipe this down hardly ever, and I like that. It's just a phone that stays clean a lot of the time. The next reason I really feel like the iPhone 15 Pro Max has been worth the price is the way it feels to hold. So this phone right here has actually been super comfortable to hold compared to the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I pick up my 14 Pro Max and I'm like, whoa, that thing is a brick. It's just much more uncomfortable to hold.
And this just, I can't go back after using this. I can't go back to the weight of that. And I'm not trying to say if you have those phones, they're bad. They're amazing phones. I'm just saying once you use this lighter, more comfortable design, I just don't see it being an option to go back. Why would you want to go back to something that's less ergonomically practical and comfortable? Just doesn't make sense to me. So overall, I think with the high-end specs, they reduced the bezels here on the 15 Pro Max, as well as USB-C, longer zoom, comfortable look, titanium. This phone has definitely felt worth its price. Once again, even if it's not a groundbreaking innovation like a folding or a flip phone. Talking a little bit further about the build, I will say that while I do think it's very comfortable, I don't feel like it feels as premium as the stainless steel in some way. It feels a little closer to aluminum, but I'm still okay with this. I just really like, this titanium build, and I do like the natural titanium look as well as the action button here. The action buttons have been pretty nice, very customizable. It just kind of has a lighter, less premium feel than stainless steel. Some people are not going to like that. So if you want the most premium feel, I think some people are going to think that their older iPhone feels like a higher end product than this one, even if titanium is technically a stronger metal. So the next thing is the concerns about durability. Now, we've seen Zach basically and jerry-rig everything, bend the phone and break it pretty easily. The crack was pretty substantial. Now, there was a new report that came out from Consumers Report that they weren't able to replicate that test quite as easily, meaning that it's not as going to break as easy as you think. Also, I've already dropped this phone 3 times and I haven't cracked it. Granted, it was in a case, but at the same time, this phone to me personally, after a week, it gives me a little bit of a sense of it's a little more fragile. The glass back is a little bit more modular now, so it's a lot easier and cheaper for Apple to replace the back. So I wouldn't be too worried, but at the same time, if you want to rock this phone without a case, I would probably recommend Apple Care. It just kind of feels a little bit, more fragile than before. I've dropped the 15 Pro Max or 14 Pro Max multiple times without a case. That thing is like a tank. Same with the 13 Pro Max. So I have this cheap case from Amazon that does the MagSafe. This is what I've been using it in. And you could see, like, when you get a case here, you need to add some thickness and kind of cheapens the feel a little bit of the phone, but it provides the protection. So I would actually recommend either use a case or get Apple Care on this phone. Durability wise, though, it still feels like a pretty strong, really quality product. And I'm not too worried about the front glass or anything like that, or even the cameras too much. I mean, if you hit them on the right angle, you might crack those too. But the glass back, definitely a little bit concerned about that. So this year, I'm going to keep a case on majority of the time, unless I'm in the area, like by indoors on the bed or by a carpet or in a safe table like this where I know it's not going to drop 6 feet to the ground. Now, one of the most obvious things has been the reduction in the bezels. Now, it's just actually beautiful. I really like how thin the bezels are. And this is one of the areas I think Apple is going to have a strong suit over a lot of competitors now. A lot of competing phones are just not going to give you bezels this thin. Besides Samsung. Obviously, Samsung phones are going to give you really thin bezels. But this just makes the phone just feel a little bit more wide, a little bit more comfortable in that sense to watch videos and stuff like that. Of course, a dynamic island tends to get in the way still. It's a pretty big thing, but even this, like using an iPad now, I just can't help but look at the bezels now. So now that Apple has done this on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, I actually want to see this bezel reduction on iPads, on MacBooks. I just want to see it everywhere now. Like, it just, I love the reduced bezels. You might not care and you might not even notice, but I think once you see these reductions, you'll definitely kind of see them on an older iPhone. They definitely tend to look a little bit more chunky now. So while a small, minute detail, if you pay attention to details, I love the reduction in the bezels. It's been great. Now, I want to give you my take on the USB-C after, the 1 week or so that I've had this phone. Cord is short, the one that comes in the box. It is like a braided cord, but it's not color matching. So Apple did not decide to do like they did with the MacBooks and give you color matching cords. However, I will say that I've been loving this as somebody who uses Android phones and the iPad having USB-C. and my headphones have USB-C, and my other Android phones and pretty much everything else has USB-C. It's been great. I really like having one cord that can charge everything. It's pretty awesome. And what's also awesome is that if you have a USB-C cord for another product, it works on here too. Although I'd still recommend using Apple stuff on Apple products. If you have a reputable brand cord that's USB-C, it shouldn't hurt the phone whatsoever. So I've been loving that. USB-C, definitely something I had to mention. Now, the actual display quality, we talked about the reduction in the bezels. I'm not going to go on and on about this. It's reduced bezels, but the actual quality is just like the one on the 14 Pro Max. Very bright, can hit over 2000 nits. It's sharp, you know, and it has a dynamic island. I mean, what else do you want to talk about here? There's not much else to say. It doesn't have the highest pixels per inch on a phone. I actually think the Pixel 8 Pro is going to have higher pixel density than this phone. And, but overall, you know, it's a great phone to read, you know, these articles on and stuff. If you read tech news and things like that, it's just awesome. And then watching a video is awesome as well. And until you punch all the way in, and then you have like a dynamic island up in the way. But other than that, it's been fantastic. It's super smooth with the 120 hertz. And man, once you go ProMotion, it's really, I can't go back. Like, I can use the iPhone 15. I'm going to use it for the review process. But in terms of my personal use, my eyes just can't go back to looking at 60 hertz. You know, as my main everyday driver. I just love the 120 hertz ProMotion. And it's something that I don't think most people care about, like regular consumers, but tech fans definitely love the ProMotion. And if you're in the gaming, you just want a super smooth iPhone experience, you'll want one of the Pro models. Okay, a couple of issues with software since getting this phone. Multiple apps have crashed already, so this launch was not buttery smooth. The first few days, things were crashed. They're starting to be less. I'm starting to see less of this happening now. Again, always in the first few days, you can potentially get an issue. But there was a transfer bug that was super annoying. You had to literally go into the phone without actually setting up, update the 17.0.2, reset the phone, and then transfer from your old iPhone. So they've already fixed that, but that was just ridiculous. Super annoying bug. Apple probably had a deadline to meet to get these phones out, but launching a phone with a bug like that, super not cool. I really dislike that. That was like the worst thing of a setup process I've ever had on an Apple product. So having to go in, download software, then reset, then go back in, that's complicated for people. So I think that that's a really irritating bug. And if you're not into tech, that could definitely anger a lot of customers. So that was ridiculous. But other than that, they fixed it. I'm okay with that. And software has been, well, iOS 17. You know what it brings by now. If you've been watching the channel, you watch my top 20 features. It's been fantastic and very fast here. I'm just looking forward to 17.1 and seeing how this software progresses and how much better it gets over time. And I'm still waiting for the Journal app for the iPhone. Let me give you my honest take on the A17 Pro Chip so far. And the truth is that there's nothing really taking advantage of this just yet that really makes this stand out. I like the 8 gigs of RAM, nothing really reloads or anything like that. And the performance has been amazingly fast, especially when you're doing games and stuff like that. There's nothing about this that feels any different to me than the iPhone 13 Pro Max or 14 Pro Max in real world everyday use, as you've seen in my speed tests. It also doesn't feel as fast animations wise as a Samsung S23 Ultra. So I think Apple can speed up animations, and I think they can, you know, maybe find a way to just make it feel like we're getting a little bit more every year with the phone in terms of performance. I know we hit a peak, but let's get like a little booster mode, or like let's add a feature where you can do like performance enhancement or something where like lets you take full advantage, or you could turn it off, like kind of like Samsung does with the game modes and things like that. That would be pretty cool to see a way to really unlock that performance. But really it comes in the way of, you know, augmented reality and stuff like that. And I think, you know, the A17 Pro chipset is going to really play well with the Vision Pro that's going to be coming later next year. So this is definitely the most powerful chip on a phone according to benchmarks, but it definitely throttles under heavier use. So, you know, and you don't have multitasking still to take advantage of it. So that's still something I really dislike. I have to hop in between apps, and I'm not saying, I don't even think people multitask efficiently, but the fact is that can we just get a way that I could split screen apps? It's a simple little feature that I just been waiting for forever. So has the action button been a gimmick? And I'm going to tell you kind of, but not really. It depends on if you use it. If you leave it here on silent mode, it matters nothing because you basically are leaving it in the way it came. It's a cool new feature, but it kind of reminds me of like a Bixby type of thing, or a Bixby button. It just reminds me of like a value add that Apple just threw on there to make it seem like it's a little different. It's not a necessity, definitely not, but it's a cool feature. And if you really want to dive into shortcuts and you love using Apple shortcuts, it's pretty neat. And of course, being Apple, you can see they had to put this beautiful titanium picture behind the action button, really polished look, the way you set it up. I really like the graphics and the way you set it up. But for me, I like that you can use it as a camera, and you can also use it as a shutter key. So that's kind of how I use it lately. Kind of like a shutter key for the camera, although you could still do that with the volume rocker, so it's not a big deal, but it's kind of nice to have a dedicated key for taking photos. So I really do like it in that sense, and I think it can be a gimmick for some, but for others that are actually going to take advantage of it, it can be useful. It kind of reminds me of just a value add-on, kind of like an S Pen for a Samsung Note. So connectivity has been fantastic, really fast 5G, Bluetooth has been super fast, and all of that stuff, we have no issues with that, so I don't need to talk about that anymore. I'm glad we got to a point where that's not really a problem anymore. Let's talk about battery life, one of the key factors of buying any phone. And this phone performs exactly like the iPhone 14 Pro Max. It's good, but it's not amazing. What I mean by that is that it gets through a full day, but under heavy use, it drains faster than something like I've seen on the 13 Pro Max. So if you're looking for a king in battery life, I don't think this is the phone. I think that's going to be the 15 Plus. This phone right here, though, is definitely strong enough to get you through your full day. Under even heavier use, you're just going to be pretty low at the end of the day. And I think if you're really pushing it and you don't actually charge it all the way up, you might actually run out of juice. So while it does have a big battery and it's very efficient, this phone right here doesn't have the best battery life on any iPhone I've seen for sure. And it's kind of maybe why Apple hasn't talked about the battery too much in the presentation, because they know that they didn't really go to town there. That's how I feel. They didn't really go to town there. Not that they really had to, it still makes it a full day, but if you're the type of customer who wants extra long battery and keep seeing improvements here, they had to cram a battery in a thinner body. I don't see it happening in this particular phone. So maybe as we go forward, it'll get better. Maybe it'll get closer to the iPhone 15 Plus next year, and they're going to go to the 6.9-inch design, which might make more space for a larger capacity battery. But this one is about like the 14 Pro Max. It's good, but it's not amazing. And my daily average of screen time has been about, 4 hours, 2 minutes. I can get about 6, 7, 8 hours depending on how bright the screen is. And I don't really like talking about this too much in terms of the battery area, because everybody's battery, the way you're using the phone, is different. If you got your phone on the GPS in your car with the sun beaming on your phone, that's different than my battery life, but my brightness under 50%. So everybody's battery life is going to be, and screen time is going to be subjective based on how you use your phone. So it's kind of hard to really pinpoint the exact accurate screen time. I could just give you the general thought about it, which is it's pretty darn good. It's a full day phone, but it's not like going 2-3 days like some of those really big battery phones you see on the market. All right, so the cameras. I'm going to show you my samples. I took over 100 samples. I'm not going to show every single 100 samples, but the cameras here have been amazing, especially the zoom. That's the main thing you're going to notice. But also, if you go into settings under the camera department, let's go over here. Where's the camera department? Right here. You'll see if we go into formats, you now capture photos at a standard 24 megapixels, which means that they're a little bit sharper even before you go into the 48 megapixel RAW modes. So that's pretty nice, I would say. Also, I got to say, the way Apple does this one times crop where it goes 28, 35, 24 that they made a big deal about hasn't been super useful to me. I mean, I could literally just zoom like this on any other iPhone. So to me, that's just marketing. But the truth is that it's been a pretty fantastic camera. We know the video quality remains really good. Action mode gives us a really nice look as well, and just really good dynamic range. So the front-facing camera also matching up just like before. Although I'm not seeing massively different results, I do notice that they're not overblowing the details too much, and face shots look better. And I also really quite like this portrait mode right here, where you can just do that, and you can do a portrait mode after the fact. All right, so here's a photo of me. Let me go ahead and click portrait, and you'll see when I click the portrait like this, it will go ahead and blur that background. So really quite nice blurry background there without even having to enable the portrait mode initially. So that's just a nice touch from the camera. So it's one of the newest features, and it's pretty excellent.
Here's some more video of the skyline. And let's try it again. Over there is the John Hancock building, Chicago. And then over there is the Willis Tower. So let's go ahead and punch in to the Willis Tower. And now we're gonna go to digital zoom, and you're gonna see this camera goes 15 times, gets a little shaky, a little bit noisy, but you can still zoom in further than before. And here's some front-facing video with the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Kind of get an idea how the front-facing video quality will perform. I am walking, no gimbal, just like you would use it. There you go.
And audio quality has been quite good.
Applications. All right, so how about the web browsing? We'll go to apple.com. Since this is an Apple video, you'll see a little bit.
So plenty good there with the audio. So I'm going to wrap it up here. 1 week later, my honest take with the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And the truth is that this phone right here, if I'm putting myself into the shoes of a consumer and not a reviewer, I would probably not upgrade if I had the iPhone 13 Pro Max or 14 Pro Max, unless you really want USB-C and reduced bezels. If you have an 11 Pro Max or 12 Pro Max, do the jump. You're going to be very happy. And if you just love having the latest and greatest and you can't live without that, I think you'll really love this phone. But there's a few issues that I would like to see sorted out. But after 1 week later, I would say this is about a 4 out of 5 stars for me. I think Apple has done it again. They've made it a great product once again. Of course, they're not really taking massive risks these days and trying something crazy new, but they keep polishing and refining on an already excellent product. And the 15 Pro Max, once again, is another excellent product. So let me know if you agree down below in the comments. If you disagree, thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. I'll catch you all in the next episode, and peace.